Alright, so today we're going to be making enchiladas de pollo with a poblano sauce. So all you're going to need is some poblano peppers, some garlic, an onion, some sour cream, some spinach, your favorite cheese for melting. I will be using mozzarella, and some chicken breast or thigh, your preference, as well as your favorite brand of tortillas. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to wash our poblano peppers and put them on the comal until they get nice and toasted. If your peppers have already turned red, don't worry about it. It's not going to make a difference. The sauce might be a little bit of a softer color green, but that's what the spinach is for, to give it a little extra color. So let's wash these up and get these toasted. So while our peppers are roasting on the comal, what I quickly did was rinse my chicken and trim off as much of the fat as I could. Now everyone says you're not supposed to wash your chicken because you're kind of making it worse with the bacteria and things like that. To each his own. I usually add a little bit of lemon while I'm washing it with water, or even some vinegar. Let it sit for a couple of minutes just to get as much bacteria off as you can. Again, to each his own. Not a big deal. As long as you're making sure your food is fully cooked. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut my chicken in half. That one's a little big, so we'll cut it in 3. Same with this one. So what this is going to do, this is going to help me in the long run as far as cooking time. I usually leave this boiling for at least 1 to 2 hours. The easier way, you could just get a rotisserie chicken, shred it up, there you go, call it a day. But I honestly prefer the chicken that I make here when I boil it and everything. So this is what I do. So while my pepper's on the comal, I have a pot of hot water getting ready to boil. So I'm going to add in my chicken and some seasoning. So let's get started. Okay, so I have my peppers roasting. And now to my pot of boiling water, we're just going to add the chicken. So, for my chicken while it's boiling, I'm going to add some onion, some chicken bouillon, and really don't know as far as measurements. I would say maybe 1 teaspoon. You can always taste it later on to see if it needs more. As well as a few hojas de laurel. And this in English is called bay leaves. Just gives the chicken a nice flavor. Let's add 3. Let's leave it semi-cracked so it doesn't spill over. And let that cook. It's going to take some time, but it'll be worth it. Now let's look at our peppers that we have on the comal. This is what you're looking for. You want to get that nice char. I'm not sure if you guys can see that. So you want to get this all around. And you continue to flip over. I don't cut off the stems for this reason, because it helps me have something to hold on to when I'm flipping them. Or you can just use your tongs. Personal preference. So now let's let these toast. If you hear that noise from the peppers, don't worry, they're popping. Another thing I forgot to mention was garlic. Now, some people like to add the garlic while it's boiling from the beginning, in the middle of the chicken cooking. People like to wait an hour after. Again, personal preference. I like to add it from the beginning. So here is my little home garden garlic. I know it looks like an onion, but it's not. So I'm just going to give this a quick rinse and toss it in there. Okay, so now that our peppers are all toasted, we're going to wrap them in a napkin and then place them inside of our plastic bag. What we want is for the peppers to sweat. While they sweat, it's going to be a lot easier to peel off the charred parts. So place this into my bag, and the same thing for these. Doesn't have to be perfect. I like to double bag it just to help trap all the steam inside. And then this may be a little too much, but this is what I like to do. I put this in an empty pan with a lid and I put it to the side. Let this sit for maybe 15 minutes, and then once it's ready to go, you'll know because you should be able to easily peel off the charred parts. So let's check on our chicken. If for whatever reason you added a lot more chicken than I did, maybe you're serving more people in your family and you see your water is obviously reducing, go ahead and add more. But just remember, whatever seasonings you add, you want to add a little bit back just so your water isn't so bland. Whatever your water tastes like is what your chicken will taste like. So, and this is again just, I would say maybe about between 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon of chicken bouillon, some onion, some bay leaves, and a piece of garlic. So by now you should be able to cut a piece off with just your fork. Let me see if I could catch this on camera. Okay, so there's our piece, but my preference is to let it cook for just a little bit longer. That way it is 10 times easier when it comes down to shredding it for our enchiladas. So let's leave that on there for maybe another half an hour and we'll come back to it. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm just heating up my tortillas so they can be more pliable when it comes down to rolling them. You can heat them up in the microwave. I actually don't own a microwave, so I just heat them up in my comal, put them in my little tortilla holder, and that's it. So while those are heating up, I'm actually going to start to peel. I'm actually going to start to peel my peppers. So like I said, the skin should just peel right off. It doesn't have to be perfect. But just make sure you get off as much as you can. So I'm going to finish peeling these, and I'm going to remove the stem and remove the seeds that are on the inside and put these in a blender. Okay, so now that I peeled my peppers, removed the seeds, removed the stem, threw them in the blender, I added some garlic powder, some salt, some onion powder, and some cumin. So I also added from our chicken that was boiling a few pieces of the onion and the garlic that we put. So I put in here maybe about a cup and a half of sour cream. You can always add heavy cream, whatever it is that you prefer. Some people actually like to add cream cheese. It's whatever it is you have on deck. Whatever you have in your fridge, go for it. Now you can add some milk just to kind of help this blend. Or you can even add a little bit of broth from the chicken that we boiled. I have a little bit of the chicken broth from when I was removing the onion. So I'm adding about half of the bag of spinach. The spinach is just mostly for color and to add an extra veggie in. So we're going to blend this up and see how green our sauce comes out. Okay, so now our sauce is all mixed up, and if you want it to be even more green, by all means add more peppers. You can even add the rest of your spinach. I mean, it's a good way to get in some, some kind of green veggie in there. I actually don't care how green it is, whether it's light or really green, I guess. Again, personal preference, but this would be the time to add more peppers, add more spinach, add more sour cream, or whatever it is that you're putting in as far as your dairy product. So now we're going to transfer this into a pan and let that warm up a little bit and let it cook. So now we're going to add a little drizzle of oil. Let that warm up for a bit. Now we're going to add our sauce. Be sure to mix it because it will splatter, as you can see on my stove. And we're gonna let this cook for about 5 to 10 minutes, as long as it's simmering. So while my green sauce is simmering, I'm going to take my shredded chicken and roll. Just like that. Take it back. And roll. So I'm going to do that for the rest of my... This one does not want to close. I'm going to do that for the rest of my tacos. And we will be right back. So now I rolled up all my taquitos, just like enchiladas suizas. I put some green sauce on the bottom just to kind of help this stick. And here is my finished green sauce. Pretty green color. And we're just gonna drizzle this everywhere. We want these ahogándose en la salsa. I am gonna leave a little bit in my pan just for additional while serving. Because I do like to add on top after. And I do have some leftover chicken that I did not finish with the tacos. I am going to just sprinkle on top. This is great chicken to use for another dinner recipe. Maybe some flautas. But I like to just add a little bit more on top because why not? Let's open our cheese, rinse. Sprinkle some mozzarella right on top. I am not a crazy cheese person. I don't really like cheese like that. But I do love me some queso fresco and mozzarella. So just enough to help it get gooey. Okay, so this is what our tray is looking like. And I would say that this should feed about 3 to 4 people. This is just for 2 people tonight, but part of it is going to be dinner for 2 as well as lunch for tomorrow. So this feeds us for 2 days. So now I'm going to grab some foil. And tightly wrap it around. Okay, there we go. Now, this is the final step. You can pretty much eat it like this. The sauce is so hot that the sauce itself will melt the cheese. But since for me, this is intended for dinner, and even though it is dinner time, my husband doesn't get home till later on, so I will be sticking it in the oven on low heat, maybe 200 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe even a little bit lower to help keep it warm and just to help the cheese melt a little faster. So keeping it on low heat will make sure that your tortillas don't dry out, and the sauce as well is going to make sure that they don't just, fall apart.